Because if fillers
Can I say this
included,
real
then,
quick,
yeah,
like a side
age
comment?
Yeah.
Like a year ago, I remember there was this study when I was in one of my classes in school, and they were like, yes, like men and women, when they did this massive like meta study, they were like men and women like are more attracted to someone usually that's younger does look better, right? Objectively, they look better, let's be real. So, but in terms of dating someone, the older they got, the more they matched up with their age.
Yes, but hang on. Let me give you the counter to this, as I understand the series of studies that you were referring to. Yes, that is true, and generally people date within about 3 years, generally, of whoever their partner is going to end up being. This is absolutely correct. But this is because the pool in which they draw from is generally going to be amongst their peers, and they're given no alternative options. However, if you adjust for alternative options, meaning you show them a picture of young, hot 20-year-old and 50-year-old and say, if you could ideally pick one, which would you pick? Which one do you think they pick?
Private chat.
So dating-wise,
Yes.
they would definitely, I mean, it depends on the values, of course, right? But dating-wise, you have nothing in common when you're 80 with a 20-year-old. Either way.
Nothing, you have nothing in, okay, so
Dating-wise.
first of all, I didn't give you the wide berth of a geriatric versus a 20-year-old.
okay, let's go
But
like
what I
40,
said is that
20.
if you're a 50-year-old, if you were a 50-year-old, 40-year-old, 30-year-old, and you were given the picture of the 20, 21, 22-year-old versus the person in your age bracket, and you were asked which one you would prefer, you say, I prefer the younger girl. Now, I'm conceding your one point, which is that people do generally date within their age bracket, but that's because those are the peers which they have around them, so that is the pool they can draw from. But if given the option of alternative pools, they would draw from those pools.
Yep.
So I think that's just a hypothetical. Like, where is that even coming
It's
from?
not
Is
a
that just
hypothetical.
your-
That's
We
data
actually-
analysis.
we
That's
have some-
actually, not only has this been cataloged and the data has been set in, and how they did this was this. I'll give you the methodology so that you understand. What they did was they said, okay, we're granting that most relationships happen within about 3 years of each other. So they went to a bunch of men and they asked the men, okay, if you could have this pool of women who look like this versus this pool, one being 10 to 20 years older in their age bracket versus the one 10 to 20 years younger, guess which one they went for? Which one do you think they went for?
Okay, here's the thing. I understand where you're going with this.
No,
Yeah.
answer my question first
Yes.
and then tell me where I'm going with this.
Yes, they would.
Which one do you think they went
Obviously,
for?
you said based on looks. You just said based on looks.
Mm-hmm.
That they would obviously go for the one that looks better. But when it really comes down
And
to
which
it,
ones were
dating,
those? Hang on, which ones were those? The younger ones
the
or the
ones
older
that are
ones?
younger. Yes.
Yeah, that's right, the younger.
Yes. So, but you're saying when they looked at a picture of someone, not when they're actually interacting and conversing on things that someone has no idea where they even were when 9/11 happened. Like they're.
So all
it's
you're
different.
saying is
There's
that if we
different
could
values.
project a 50-year-old's personality into a 20-year-old's hot body, men would always go for that? That's
I
all
mean,
you're saying.
wouldn't we all?
So, I mean, all you're saying is like, okay, so some men prefer to have
Wouldn't
long
we
walks
all?
on the beach and late night conversations, but they still would really prefer a hot chick. That's what you're saying.
We actually
I
have
think we all
some,
would, though.
we actually have some stuff we can pull
You
up.
like, hang on. Say that again.
I think we all would.
Right. I think we all would. So this is where you need to move out of the delusion, because you just admitted you think we all would, which would include you, which would include the 50-year-old, which would include all of them. So you can't give me the age gap gives me the ick, right?
didn't
can't,
say that.
You
When
can't do
did I
the
say
ick.
that?
Can't do the ick.
I said in society's eyes, that's how they view men and women. I didn't never
No,
said
you
that.
didn't. You said, I think we all would. That's a collective which includes you.
We all would date someone that looks better.
Yeah, and if those people
But if
happen
they
to
had
be
the same
younger,
values.
if
They had the
those
same
people
values.
happen to be younger, would you be dating the younger people?
The thing is, like,
You're
I'm
not
trying
answering
to,
the
I'm
question.
trying
You're
to
just going to
present.
ask me a question.
I'm trying to
Go on,
present
diatribe.
like a value type scenario here. Like, it's not just all about looks. Is the whole point. Like, when it comes down to it, the reason why they're with that person, the the variable there is because of the values, is because of like the time frame of the mindset. It's not about looks at the end of the day. That's what I'm saying.
It's about looks at the beginning of the day.
It's
Yeah.
not.
And
when you
It's
see the
not. It's not
picture-
about looks, huh?
And
When you see the picture, yeah.
It's the
So
law
let
of
us
diminishing
assume-
returns for women. It's the law of diminishing returns. I looked way better at 30 than at 50, you know? I still feel like I'm an attractive lady, but I looked way better at 30.
But I bet you
and
could run laps around like your 20-year-old self. Now, though,
you know,
mentally.
That's not what we're
absolutely.
talking about.
But,
Okay, but
just on a physical dynamic, it's the law of diminishing returns, and your youth and your collagen and your beautiful non-wrinkled skin and all of that stuff is part of the package of what a man that's older and successful and established is going to be attracted to, and that's just the trade-off. That is the trade-off of how it's always been with humans.
Initially.
Yes, of course.
Initially, yeah.
And I certainly have a husband who values my mind. He thinks I'm a 10, and he thinks I'm brilliant or whatever, right? Makes me feel like I'm being viewed as a whole entity, not just physical appearance, right?
Yeah.
I make him laugh, he makes me laugh, all of that stuff. But when you're a young woman, your mind is not what men are instantly judging you by. They take one look and boom, they make snap decisions in their head based on whether they'd want to talk to you, whether any of that stuff.
Yep.
And as you get older, your looks are going to go down the decline. I mean, that's
But then
just a
it goes
fact
like
of
this.
life.
It's like, look,
I get
There's
more tattoos.
trade-offs. Now there's trade-offs, and
There is.
It's not
and
true.
for me,
It's just cope.
So is it opposite?
It's just cope.
no,
I get
there's-
dumber.
It is. It's just. It's just
what I'm
cope.
saying.
It's pure cope.
That's not what I'm arguing. It's not what I'm arguing. But this idea that in terms of the attractiveness of your personality and the attractiveness of your mind, it somehow increases as you get older is absolute cope.
I don't
Most
think so.
people, again, I already asked you guys, do you get more jaded as you age? Most people, in my estimation, typically don't tend to actually really develop like really compelling, fantastic personalities as they get older.
I've always
I
had
don't
a
agree
good
with that.
personality.
I'm kind of
since
confused
high
because
school.
if I was 50 trying to date and I'm on a dating app, I'm going to be looking around for other 50.
You're a woman though. Men and women are different.
You wouldn't try to snag you a little like fine ass little 30-year-old little
Here,
zaddy.
Nick, pull up the studies, please.
But
Pull
why
up
would
the
she
studies.
want a
Physically
30-year-old
looking?
though?
Huh?
Like, I
Probably
don't know.
not.
Women
If I
first,
saw
women
someone
first.
30 and they had a
Okay.
great...
Hold on.
Oh no, you're too hot and too rich. I don't want you.
Okay.
Come on. Like,
So-
what kind of cope is this shit? Oh, you're too hot and too rich. I don't want you. Said
Okay,
no
okay.
chick ever. Nobody. Show of hands. You're too hot and too rich. I don't want you. Lie to me. Put up your hands. I want to hear it. I want to hear that the guy who's 20 years younger than you at 50, who's just too hot and too rich, I just don't want him because he's got some personality quirks.
I'm not.
He
taking- I
doesn't
don't
like
care how much money you
fucking
have.
basket weaving as much as
I don't
me.
care how much
Yeah,
money you
dude,
have. Yes, the
Fucking
fuck you
lying.
do.
No,
I don't care how much money you
talking about
have.
dudes
If
with money
you got
the
a
whole
whack ass
time.
personality, I'm gonna leave. Which is why
But
I
if
left
he has
my
money,
ex.
you gonna stay.
No,
Yeah,
dude,
okay,
'cause
well,
my
what do you want your man to have in
ex-boyfriend had a
common? Okay,
shit ton of
let's
fucking
test
money,
this.
and I
Let's-
still
let's
left
te-
his
hang on.
ass. What about
All
money
right,
and
all
good
right.
dick?
Let's
I'm
test
saying.
it. Let's test it and see if it's actually true. What are the actual things that you want your man interested in that you're interested in? Go ahead.
Me.
Yeah.
I think that's her answer.
No,
I
wait.
just want
no,
him interested
honestly,
in me.
what do you want him interested
I
in
want
that you're
him
interested in?
Interested in me.
That's all.
Okay, yeah, he's interested in you.
No,
but
but
he'd
the
be
problem
interested in you at 30 or at 50. So, what are these quirks at 30? What are these interests at 30 that
I
he's
have
going to
a
have
lot-
that you don't have?
We have a lot of interest. I have a lot of interest. Okay. I could also match his interest. Okay. It's about.
You're not
liking-
answering the question. You're you're literally
Repeat the
obfuscating. So
question.
ask
Repeat
it
the
again. I'll ask it
question.
again. What are these interests you think you're going to have at 50 that you just demand that your man also must have?
Honestly, I think we're gonna have our own interests because we're different people.
Right. So then he's too hot and too rich at 30 because he doesn't share some perceived interest you don't even have. Really?
Usually, wisdom matches up at the end of the day. Like once you get older.
Oh, great. Well, then
age,
tell
you
me what the
understand
wisdom
things,
is. What is
and
the
you
thing that
understand-
you demand your
How is
man
that not
has?
true? You don't even
I
know
think
yet.
it's
You're like
respecting each other's
I'm what?
interests.
You're like in your 30s.
Are you talking about material things like a house, this and that?
Interests,
Things
hobbies.
like
You're
that?
talking about hobbies,
Like,
right?
Okay.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, so what I'm trying to do is this. I'm trying to say, I don't actually believe you when you say, if you're at 50 and this 30-year-old guy who's really good looking and really rich is incompatible due to some sort of interest differential.
Hell yeah,
Which is what you're saying.
dude.
Okay,
Hell
okay,
yeah.
stop. Hang on, let me finish the question. That's what you're saying. Then tell me what those interests would be.
My interests would be like crocheting, building puzzles, like talking about shows like iCarly,
Yeah,
like
time
time
period
period
stuff.
okay,
talking
yeah,
about
sure.
SpongeBob,
Cultural
and
time
making
period.
references like to
I just want to make sure I got
SpongeBob,
this clear.
Playing World of Warcraft.
At 50 years
like
old,
things
you're
that
going to
I did in
reject
high
a
school.
30-year-old
Why are you
hot
cutting me
male
off?
with
You
a lot
asked
of
me a
money
question, I'm
because he's
asking
not
you a
interested in your
question.
fucking crocheting. Lie to me again. Lie to
I'm
me
not
again.
lying to you. What I told you is that
interested.
I would want to be with a partner that respects my interests.
Yeah, he wants to
He
know
doesn't
all
gotta
about
be
your
into
fucking
them,
crocheting.
but he can ask
No
a question
guy,
about
no guy
them.
anywhere gives a fuck about your crocheting and you know it. Like how many more lies you gonna tell? Nobody's like, honey, I
No,
love your.
I'm sorry.
Tell me more about your needlework.
If he has
It's
money,
so important to me.
and if I'm
So
50
many
years
guys
old
in
and he
there.
got bread and he has a shitty personality, I'm not taking it. I'm 50.
Yeah.
I'm well off.
Here's
I'm
the thing,
good.
though. But when you say that, I ask what that means. You say it's a lack of shared interest, right? That's part of the
I didn't
personality
say lack
thing.
of shared interest.
Yeah, no, you just did. In fact, you gave us crocheting as an example.
I gave you
You
interests that I
legitimately
have
are going
that
to
you
reject
asked
a
for.
30-year-old. Hang on, at 50, you think you're going to legitimately reject a 30-year-old hot dude with a lot
Yeah,
of money
I am.
he's not interested in your fucking crocheting?
I'm personally going to reject anyone with a shitty personality, and I
At the
thought
end of
that
the
was
day,
the
yeah.
topic.
Yeah, that's not my question. What's my question? Repeat back to me.
Okay, so if your question is if
Repeat
I'm going to
my question
reject
back to
someone
me.
because he doesn't like my crocheting, I'm going to be like, yeah, I understand that.
Yeah,
If he doesn't like my-
exactly.
then I'll take it. If
What
he-
the fuck? What
that's
is
cra-
this?
But that wasn't the question. You said if he wasn't
That's
interested
a
in
literal
your...
question. Yes.
The question was if he wasn't interested in all of my hobbies, and I thought it was also that he had
Okay,
a bad
so
personality.
what hobbies?
Was that
So,
not the
okay,
original
hey,
question?
just
That he was a piece of
And
shit
rich.
and he was hot and rich. The question was
Perfect,
if he
perfect.
was
What hobbies?
a bad
Perfect. What hobbies?
person, not a good personality. If he has a shitty personality.
Stop with that for a second. What hobbies? You just said if he's not interested in my hobbies,
the
I want to know
original- I
specifically
didn't
which
say if
hobbies.
he's not
You-
interested in
stop.
my
Let me
hobbies.
ask the question. Let me ask the question. What hobbies specifically? Which hobbies specifically do you demand he takes an interest in? Because
I
crocheting, you don't give a fuck. Right?
If he has his own hobbies, he has his own hobbies, and I have my own hobbies. Like that doesn't matter. The original question was if
This
this
has
guy.
gone. This is totally derailed. This is totally derailed.
Can I respond about the wisdom thing?
Okay, but I'll move it back to what I was trying to. I want to finish this up. So go
All
ahead.
right, good. No, you go.
Go ahead.
Well, I'll just say real quick, like, I think, like, I totally agree. The interest thing, like, cultural, like, I want to watch iCarly when I'm 60 with you, period, right? But the wisdom thing, like, usually I think it matches up at a certain age. Like, why do you think that, like, a lot of guys who are players when they're younger become, like, faithful when they're older? I've literally seen this. My uncle do this.
You think men care about? I don't even think women really care about wisdom. Otherwise, there would be chicks in the DMs of like the most intelligent engineers and the smartest, nerdiest guys. Chicks want to fuck the athletes, the hot dudes, the guys with status, the models, the actors. Get out of here about even girls wanting wisdom. That's fucking bogus. Otherwise, y'all be trying to fuck rocket
disagree
scientists.
with Are you
projecting
You're
on
trying
me?
to
You're
fuck rocket
projecting.
scientists.
I
Y'all are
disagree.
fucking
You're
full of
projecting.
shit. Y'all are
I
full
know.
of
Who said
shit.
that? You said that. I never
Okay,
said
Brian,
that.
You can't say
said
I'm full
that?
of shit in this.
Y'all
I
are
be smashing
full-
on the nerds,
y'all
the
are
golden
full of shit.
retrievers, like.
Full of fucking
Dear
shit.
50-year-old engineer, can you please explain to me how a servo works? Said no chick ever.
Okay,
They don't
well,
fucking care about wisdom.
Albert
What kind of
Einstein
cope
was a
is
player.
this?
Bro, and if it was about wisdom, if y'all were attracted
got
to
all the
wisdom,
girls.
bro, engineers, fucking software engineers, coders would be drowning in fucking
They probably
pussy,
are.
but they're not. You guys want to fuck the
Yeah, they are.
athletes.
Do you have any you can ask?
I don't.
Like,
Yeah.
You guys want to
Women
fuck
degrees
athletes
are not the
and
same.
movie
You're wrong.
stars.
No, we don't.
And well, how am I fucking wrong?
I came on
Who
here.
has more fucking DMs?
Guess what?
Hold on, hold on, hold on,
I
hold on,
came
hold on.
on here-
Hold on, here, check this
Wait,
out.
hold on. Check
All right,
this out.
both.
I came here and I said I would date you, and you're literally like, "What are you doing? You're not.
I'm a fucking podcast host.
Yeah.
What's that?
And I
Let's-
said,
hang on,
"Hey,
you know
he's
what?
right."
Relevant.
You're so
you're
right.
not a
You're so
rocket
right.
science.
What is
I'm
Brian
sorry,
doing?
you're not
Let's
a,
see.
You're not an athlete.
He has one of the
You
largest
don't
IRL
dribble,
podcasts
right?
in the world.
You run
He's
a
probably
podcast.
perceived as being rich by multiple women. Oh, gee,
I
what
have
could
an
what could the
opinion.
alternative motivation
He is
possibly
cute.
be?
I'm going based off his looks.
Okay, so hold on.
She wants to smash.
You know what?
Wait, guys, she
I
didn't get to talk
retract
yet, and
all
she has an
of
Hold
opinion.
on. Okay, who do you think is getting more DMs? Drake or some like computer scientist who goes to UCSB?
Drake's on the internet.
Drake's
That's
a
different.
P, so.
You guys.
If it was
He's
about
actively
wisdom,
realistic
on
here.
the
if it was
internet.
about wisdom, these software engineers,
Drake is
with
getting
these
I wish I
fucking
could find a
physicists,
software
the fucking
engineer.
Steven-
I wish I
these-
could find a
hold
software
on,
engineer.
Stop.
Is anyone else
stop.
hungry?
Hold on.
I'm just curious.
Stop. Only one person can be talking at a time, so let me at
fucking be
least
out of this.
say what I have to say. Okay. If it was the case that y'all really, if women across the board thought wisdom was the number one attraction trigger, then these software engineers and I'm trying to think, physicists and mathematicians would be drowning in fucking pussy, but they're not.
Wow.
They're not on the internet.
I
They're not.
volunteer. I
It's because
volunteer.
people
just
don't
volunteer.
know about those people.
Tribute.
If people
Just to
are
shut
going
us
for
up.
athletes and movie stars, it's because
How about
They're-
even in college?
they have PR
You
people.
went to UCSB, right? Do you think the soccer players at UCSB, on a balance of
connections.
probabilities,
I think it's
on a
connections
balance of
in media.
probabilities, are like the soccer players at UCSB getting more pussy than the guys who are doing software engineering?
But there's also a difference in the
Media.
way that they idolize the soccer player, and they don't acknowledge.
Precisely. Yes, they
don't
idolize the
acknowledge
status of the soccer players.
the-
They
but
idolize
it's-
their
I'm not
physique.
talking about the women. I'm talking about their coaches. I'm talking about the teams. It's a part of their strategy to boost their confidence so they can win whatever match they're playing. So they idolize that and they glorify that. So it's constantly on the internet. It's constantly being talked about. But you have an engineer that's just doing a really, really great job. No one's talking about that.
Right, precisely.
Yeah.
But if it had to do with wisdom, women would seek out.
Oh,
these
really?
men.
Wait.
I
What?
think women
Wait,
date.
hang on. Let's back up. Nobody's talking about Bill Gates. Nobody's talking about Steve Jobs. Nobody's talking about these massive engineers who are pioneers of computer tech. Did you ever see what their women
They're
look like, lady?
married.
Hang on,
Yeah.
what do their women look like?
Like,
You think that their
we ain't
women
talking
were
about
fucking
them.
knockouts or what? Come on. These are some of the most talked about men on planet Earth. They were fucking dorks. They were not pulling good trim.
Guess who
I'm
they
sorry.
left their
weren't-
wives
You
for?
know they weren't.
Guess
What do
who
you
they
want me
left
to
their
say?
wives for?
What's that?
Women.
Younger women.
Jeff Bezos.
Younger
Hopefully
women
me.
what?
They left their wives for younger women.
Jeff Bezos' new chick ain't. She's not. I shouldn't. I'm not
Elon
gonna be
Musk
mean, but
is dating
I'm
Grimes.
not gonna be mean, but Jeff
Grimes'
Bezos'
baby
new
mama.
The
girl.
point,
Like,
the
it-
point
you know what?
is, though,
Honestly,
is that
like,
these,
two-
in fact, half of these guys' wives leave them. They leave them.
Yeah,
The
'cause they
thing
getting
is,
that
is
check and they
all-
bounce.
Hang on. Let me finish. They have all the wisdom in the world. They have billions of dollars. Their wives end up
Maybe it's 'cause
leaving
of their
them.
values.
Stop. Let me finish the point. So the wives end up leaving them. Reason for this is
Francis
no.
Gautier donated $200.
Hey, you know,
This is called
yes.
the hot hand fallacy, the big short. Delulu women thinks that what's happening now gonna continue to happen even more in the future.
Thank you,
because they
Francis.
think they're gonna age like wine. Nope.
Thank you, Francis. Appreciate it, Andrew. If you can, just go ahead with your point.
Yeah,
but
I'll
I do
just
have to-
very quickly wrap up. So I'm just saying, no, there are plenty of very aged, very wise men who also happen to be ugly as shit, who it seems that women are not very into, even though they're rich and they have all the wisdom and all of that. Somehow they still end up not going for those guys, but going for the 6'2" jocked out guy who they actually are attracted to Brian's point.